So tissues is chapter 4 in your textbooks, or it should be. The body is composed of trillions of cells which are organized into more complex units called tissues, which is not like the picture you see there. And a tissue is a group of similar cells and extracellular products that perform a common function. These are the 4 types of tissue that we'll go through, and you should be familiar with each: connective, epithelial, muscle, and nervous. Epithelial tissue lines every body surface and all body cavities. Organs are lined on the inside and outside by epithelial tissue. The majority of glands are also derived from epithelial tissue. Here are the functions listed of epithelial tissue. All epithelial tissue are what we call, they have cellularity, which means they're composed almost entirely of cells. They don't have any extra stuff in them. They're just all cells. They're also what we say they're polar, where they have an apical or top exposed surface and a basal bottom or attached surface. Epithelial tissues are richly innervated with nerves to detect changes in the environment. They have a high regeneration capacity, meaning they can quickly regenerate and create more types of epithelial tissue cells. They're attached, all of them, to a basement membrane. Their basal surfaces are attached to a layer of connective tissue, and they are what we call avascular, meaning they lack blood vessels. The basement membrane is a specialized structure that connects to the basal surface of epithelial cells. Characteristics of epithelial tissue are seen here. Epithelial cells are also bound tightly to each other by different types of junctions: tight junctions, adhering junctions, desmosomes, and gap junctions. So epithelial cells are bound tightly next to each other to allow for communication between these cells. The cells of epithelial tissue are classified by the number of layers of cells and the shape of their cells. So a simple epithelium has one layer of cells. A pseudostratified epithelium, the cells are of different heights. They all do not reach the surface. The nuclei are at different levels, but they all attach to the basement membrane. And a stratified epithelium has more than one layer of cells. This is a look at simple and stratified epithelium. Then they're classified by the cell shape. They're squamous if they're flat, wide, and irregular. They're cuboidal if they're shaped like a cube and the nucleus is centrally located and shaped like a circle. And if they're columnar, the nucleus is at the bottom of the cell and they're taller than they are wide. Here are the types of epithelium listed here that you should be familiar with. Epithelial simple squamous is one layer of flattened type cells. An example of where simple squamous is located are in the air sacs of lung tissue to allow for rapid gas exchange between oxygen and carbon dioxide. Other locations are in your kidney, glomeruli, lining of the heart, blood vessels, and lymphatic vessels. Simple cuboidal is a single layer of cube-like shaped cells. They're found in kidney tubules. Simple columnar is a single layer of tall cells with oval nuclei. They're found in your small intestine and digestive tract and gallbladder. They can be non-ciliated or ciliated. Ciliated means they will help move particles or substances, and non-ciliated means they won't have that layer of cilia attached to their apical surface. Pseudostratified, again, are cells at different heights with nuclei at different heights. They're present in the male sperm carrying ducts as non-ciliated and in the trachea as ciliated. Stratified squamous is more than one layer of squamous-like cells, and they're located, especially they form the external part of the skin and lining of the esophagus, mouth, and vagina. They can be keratinized, which means the cells near the apical surface are dead, or non-keratinized, meaning they're all alive. Transitional epithelium kind of resembles both stratified squamous and stratified cuboidal. I think they look like balloons or, like balloons or marshmallows, and they can be found, they can stretch to permit the distension of the urinary bladder, so they can line the urinary bladder, the ureters, and parts of the urethra. Then glands can either be endocrine or exocrine. They perform a secretory function, so they'll secrete mucin, hormones, enzymes, and waste products. If they're endocrine, they do not possess a duct, such as hormones, and they will go directly into the bloodstream. And if they're exocrine, they will possess a duct, and their cells will secrete their products into the ducts. So I'll let you guys read through endocrine glands and hormones. Here's an overview of hormones a little bit. The organs of the endocrine system are listed here. Sometimes the endocrine system is its own separate chapter, but we've included it within this chapter as we're talking about endocrine glands. Exocrine glands are multicellular. They're enclosed in a fibrous capsule, and again, they will secrete their substances directly into ducts. So an exocrine gland consists of a secretory portion and a conducting portion, which would be the duct. It can be serous, mucus, or mixed, like sweat. It can be mucin, or salivary glands produce saliva in your mouth to help with digestion of starch. Body membranes, these are membranes lining the major body cavities. They consist of an epithelial sheet and underlying connective tissues, which are seen, and those are examples of membranes listed there. Then we get to connective tissue. It's the most diverse, abundant, and widely distributed. We call it the glue and filler of the body. It's the most diverse because it includes all your tendons and ligaments, but also your fat, your bones, your cartilage, and all the blood. So extremely diverse. Characteristics of connective tissue: they have few cells. There are some cells in connective tissue, but much fewer than what we just saw in epithelial tissue. Many protein fibers and lots of ground substance, which is a mixture of proteins and carbohydrates. Fibers of connective tissue can be collagen fibers. They can be elastic fibers, or there can be reticular fibers. And this is a look at the common embryonic origin in the mesenchyme and the descendants of the cells and what they will eventually differentiate into and their function. Here are the functions of connective tissue. Because it's so diverse, like bone and blood, it has many different functions. Characteristics of connective tissue are listed here. And these are the connective tissue classifications, and you can see the diversity of connective tissues listed here. There are two groups of cells in connective tissue. They can be resident or wandering. And this gives you a great table of the resident and wandering cells, their appearance, and their function. Connective tissue proper can be loose or dense. Loose connective tissue is what we call areolar, adipose, or reticular. And dense can be dense regular, dense irregular, or elastic. And the dense has more fibers that are densely packed together, and loose connective tissue more serves as the body's packing material. So here are the 6 different types of loose and dense connective tissue, their structure and function, and their location. This takes you through each connective tissue proper in detail, and you guys can pause the slide at any time. I'm going to let you guys work through these on your own. And these are the dense regular, dense irregular, and then elastic connective tissue is found in the walls of your major blood vessels to allow for stretching of blood as it is ejected from the heart. Cartilage and bone are the supporting connective tissue types. So here is a look at cartilage and some of its characteristics. The cells in cartilage are called chondrocytes. These are the 3 types of cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is glossy. Elastic cartilage is formed in the external ear and your epiglottis. And fibrocartilage is found in your intervertebral discs. Bone then is another type of connective tissue, and this is a microscopic look at bone. Fluid connective tissue is then blood and lymph. Blood contains many different cell types, and it functions to transport all your respiratory gases, nutrients, wastes, and other substances. Then we get to nervous tissue, which contains 2 types of cells, neurons and glial cells, and they work in communication and control of body functions. Here is what nervous tissue looks like in a typical neuron and the different structures of that neuron itself. Muscle tissue is comprised of cells that are called fibers, and these are the 3 types of muscle tissue. Skeletal muscle is the type that will be attached to your bones to help with movement. You can see that it's striated with these lines. It will have multiple nuclei, and it will be voluntary, meaning you control the movement of your skeletal muscle. Cardiac muscle is striated, and it has what we call these intercalated discs, which allow for rapid electrical communication between the cell fibers. Cardiac muscle tissue is involuntary, which is a good thing because you do not tell your heart when to beat. Smooth muscle is also involuntary. It's found in the lining of most internal organs like your stomach, intestines. And that's the end of the tissue slideshow. I know that's a lot more quickly. Please use your Connect resources and your resources online to supplement your studying with this. And also your homework questions that are with each chapter should test your knowledge in a really kind of brief but thorough way of the material matter.